What do you think are the primary causes of depression in teens?
I think we already said number one is probably social media.
What's number two?
Right now, I think it's isolation
Yeah.
and just not taking the time to connect with other people in real life or just at all, and just keeping everything built up inside of you and not, telling anyone the struggles you're having, or just not letting anyone in and keeping everyone out.
Do you think we, before the pandemic, were masking our depression with busyness?
Oh yeah.
For sure. A lot of people definitely.
Oh yeah.
I think I was kind of, depending on how you look at it, it either was really bad for me or really good for me. I moved during the middle of the pandemic. And so that, one, you look at it from one direction, well, now I don't have any friends because I don't live here. You look at it from the other direction, I was forced to make new connections.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only lived here for 9 months, but I was forced to make those new connections and make new friends. And I think that helped me, and I think it could help a lot of other people to force themselves to do new things.
I think isolation is huge. I think that people, they're, as much as there's a lot of people who are still stuck at home, and there's a lot of people whose parents are still making them not be able to see people, keeping yourself away from interaction, even if that's over the phone, like that's a choice you can make. Like you don't have to call your friend and tell them what a hard time you're having. A lot of people, they find it really hard to do that. And so I know that in some cases, like it's beyond your control why you can't go be with your friends and spend time with your friends. But I think that isolating yourself and pushing everybody away, just like you're saying, is like a choice that people make. It's a defense mechanism, They don't want to be vulnerable
Right.
in front of people. They don't want to be, they don't want to spill their guts to people. Like people are really having a hard time. And they're also really having a hard time talking about it. And so, just like you said, everything builds up and builds up and builds up. And it just, it's all going to come crashing down at some point.
Right, and I think part of that of not being able to, people not wanting to open up to people about their struggles. A lot of times mental health issues are genetic, and like you inherit that through your parents and your family. And I have some friends who have dealt with mental health issues, and were so scared to talk to their parents about it, and were so nervous, and eventually told their parents, and they're like, oh yeah, that's something I go through. I've been taking medication since I was your age. And so obviously not every parent is going to be comfortable opening up with their kids about that, if they don't have to. But I think if you are struggling, if you are going through something, maybe don't be afraid to turn to your parents about it, because you don't know if that's, a similar thing that they're walking through that you just would have never known, because maybe they were insecure about it, or they didn't feel that was something appropriate to share with you. I know not all parents are understanding of mental health issues, but a lot of times that can be something that your whole family has walked through before or experienced, and you might be able to find some comfort in them, and in that you're not only are you not alone because people all over the world are experiencing that, but like you're not alone because maybe someone in your house is experiencing the same thing too.
That's a great point. Take it down from them to us. In your life, what do you struggle with the most, that caused you the most angst or anxiety, or that you want to get past? If you don't mind sharing, that's kind of a personal question, but if you're comfortable with it.
When I was in middle school, I really struggled with disordered eating, and and it kind of culminated to like with it was like a way to control my anxiety, was to control what I ate and to control what I did and control how much I worked out and control how many pounds were on the scale. And so I think a big thing for me was like at the time when it was, now in retrospect, I can understand how unhealthy it was. But when I was right there, it just was like, oh, I'm just being fit like every other girl, I go to school with. We're all just, we want to look good for our swimsuits or whatever, something stupid like that. And I just didn't, and it wasn't until I used to dance. I used to do point. So like the ballet where you're right on your toes. And my feet were hurting so bad. I've been doing point for a while, and normally there's some pain like associated with that, but it was really bad. And my toe, it's silly to say, but my toe was like huge. I mean, it was swelling and swelling and swelling. And so finally I told my mom, and we went to the doctor, and my doctor said, like, your bones are stress fracturing every time that you go on point. And my mom asked the doctor, like, do you know what, like, is it just because she's young? And the doctor's like, we don't really know. And I remember sitting there and I was like, it's because I'm not eating enough. Like, it's because this is why my hair falls out. Like, this is why I'm sick. And it was like, then I saw all of it. And having to ultimately find my identity in Christ and not in my weight or not in how I looked or not in all of that stuff was really the only thing that brought me out of that, I think. And people around me and family that supported me and friends. But if it had not been for that, I don't know who I would be, sitting here today. And if I didn't have Christ, I don't know how that would have changed or how that would have gotten any better.
Yeah, I know I put you on the point. I appreciate the honest testimony, but you made a great point here. It's like you keep trying to change from the outside. What does that do for you? But when you change from the inside with Christ, then everything changes, right? Your whole life changes, your outlook changes, and where you move changes. I'm 61 years old, and I still find myself comparing myself to other people and even other Christians. Yeah. Well, they know more of the Bible than I know now. I must not be doing it well enough. Yeah. It's weird how the world and Satan and our own selves get to the point where we keep thinking we don't measure up. And that doesn't come from God, does it? Right? But somebody told me one time that the worst sin you can do that you think you can't be forgiven for, you killed Christ. We all killed Christ, and he forgave us for that. So surely he can forgive me for not being the best person at this or the best person at that, or because I didn't do this. And only because I know who I have inside of me can I respond and relate to the people outside of me, right? In a way that's helpful to pulls them up instead of pulls them down. But appreciate that perspective. But it's interesting, we think everything is a teen issue. It's a life issue, right? It's a life issue. I think we all struggle with that to an extent.
Yeah, and it's definitely important to know what God says about you. I mean, because the enemy got Eve to sin when he asked her, who told you that? Who said that? What is? And so she started second guessing what God had said and what he had told her to do. And so I think in the same way, the enemy's always trying to convince us that what God says isn't true. Or like earlier when you were saying, how do we know that Christ isn't going to change, that he's not going to fail us? A lot of times that thought is from the enemy. Like, really, really, are you sure about this? Did he really say that? Did he really tell you this? Is that really who you are? And so having to ground yourself in truth, I think, is essential, because if you don't know what this book really says, then you're going to start teetering and fall.
That's a great point. It's interesting that Satan's first question, did God really say?
You're right.
And it hasn't really changed since then, has it?
Yeah.
The same thing. Did God really say you're going to be okay at this? Are you really going to be fine? It's interesting how he works into your thinking. So, there's something I heard one time, to your point, Julia, and the reason I asked the question before is, how do you know Christ is real? How you know Christ is not going to fail you? You can be in the Bible every single day and read it and know it here, but not know it here, right?
Right.
Nobody cares how much you're in the Bible. They care about how much the Bible is in you, right?
Right.
If I'm not chewing, eating the Bible, and living the Bible, then it's just a book.
Yeah.
But when I'm in it and I'm trusting Christ in difficult situations and I see him come through, things change, right? Then I am starting to get changed from the inside out. I look more like Christ and less like the world. And it's hard, right? It's a lifelong trek, and we don't get it till we get to heaven completely. But we want to go that direction, right?